Wait for it to go. Hello, guys. Welcome back. We are live, as Anton, the man on the decks and dials, is telling us. I sound like a 5 o'clock radio show host now, don't I? Or like an 11 a.m. daytime disco. There you go. Hey, Ekaterina. So, everybody, welcome to the show all dedicated to how to start and scale an SEO agency. We've got Tom with us today. I'm going to do the formal introductions in 5 minutes from now. So whilst we are waiting for people to arrive, please do let us know where you're from. That includes country as well as city, and what your occupation is or what you're trying to do, or what brought you here. That'd be great. So I'd love to hear where everybody is from. Hello, Hilmi. Where are you from, my friend? Good morning from Atlanta, Chris. Good to see you again, Chris. I think you've been on a couple of the shows. Do let everybody else who's watching know what you do, Chris. We've got AV Square Technologies. What is your name, Mr. AV Square? Paul is here. Hello, Paul. Sunny Sandhurst, UK. How are you doing? Paul is an SEO expert as well. We've got Noel Gomez. Hello, Noel. AV Square. You're from Chennai, India. You're doing web development. What is your name, Mr. AV Square, or Miss or Mrs. AV Square? Please let us know where everybody is tuning in from. Ekaterina, we would love to know where you're from. SEO refresh ideas. We'd love to know where you're from. Brilliant. So we've got Oliver, the UK. UK is pretty big. Drill it down. We've got Rogue River. Kimberly, what an amazing way to pronounce your name, and what an amazing place to say that you're from. Where are you from? Rogue River. You sound like you're from a movie. We've got Saju from the UK. Saju, let us know where in the UK that you're from as well. We've got Wojtek. Now, Wojtek, you're from Bury. You're a freelancer in the UK. Brilliant. Where are you originally from, Wojtek? You've got a pretty awesome name. India. SEO refresh ideas. Come on. India's a pretty big place. So if you're from India and you're watching, let us know where in India you're from. Can you speak, or do you need to write? You have the pleasure of being able to write to us, Katerina. So if you can write in the comments where you're from, that'd be brilliant. Glasgow, UK. Okay, amazing. And what do you do, Katerina? It'd be good to hear. And I think that we've got Shahana. Well, actually, that's Saj, isn't it? Or Saju. God, Anton, you're too fast for me. We've got Naveed from Melbourne. What do you do, Naveed? Do let us know. And guys, we've got 3 more minutes until we begin, basically. Then I'll introduce the man on my right or left, depending upon where you're looking in from, Mr. Tom Livingstone. And Tom is from Northampton. If anyone can tell us where Northampton is, where in the UK, I will give you absolutely nothing, but it'll be cool for, for you to let us know. We've got Noel Gomez from Mumbai. What else? SEO techniques. So SEO refresh, you told us your name. I'm sure you did somewhere. You're from India. I don't know your name just yet, but we're going to be talking about how to grow and scale a local SEO agency. So if you're interested in building an agency that's based either around local clients or rather local SEO, ranking in Google Maps, 3-pack, a lot of that kind of stuff, we're going to be talking about not how to do it, but how to win those type of clients and how to manage those type of clients. We've got Tanmay from Ghaziabad. I hope I pronounced that right, by the way, Tanmay. I've got no clue. Don't let my Indian name fool you. We've got Oliver. Okay, brilliant. Mechanized, specializing in SEO. Okay, good man. Good to see you here, Oliver. Good to see you here. And yep, everybody, if you're just joining, if you're just joining, we're going to be starting in 2 minutes. Today's episode is about how to build and scale a local SEO agency. We've got Tom Livingstone here, as you can see, and he is of Right Click Inspect. And we're going to be talking about everything that's related to actually building and scaling a local SEO agency. So I'll give it 1 more minute, everybody. 1 more minute. If anyone has yet to tell us where they're from, or yet not to tell us where they're from, and what are you doing, get involved in the comments. And I think that we've got a pretty good audience at the moment. So we've got Chirag from Ahmedabad. I almost got that wrong. So Chirag, if you can let us know what you do, or Chirag, if you can let us know what you do, my friend, it'd be good to hear. And we've got Katie from Atlanta. I remember you from the last show, Katie. How were you? You were here with the Pete Campbell webinar, if I recall correctly. There's a couple of names that I remember and I recognize. So what else have we got happening here? Brilliant. So hey Munir, you're from London, working to improve your search ranking, well, you've come to the right place. And we've got Margin. Well, you told us you're from London, so there you go. Let us know what you do, Margin. And guys, without further ado, it's the 5-minute mark, so we're going to kick off. So, Tom.
Hello.
Well done for surviving all of that, by the way. I definitely sound like a radio DJ as I'm going through that. Hey, Daniel. So guys, for what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be talking about, for those of you who just joined, how to build and scale a local SEO agency. We've got Tom Livingstone here of Right Click Inspect, and we're going to be covering some really, really interesting topics. So first of all, please do, of course, like and subscribe to this channel if you're watching. And what we're going to be going through alongside your questions, please do in the comments, ask any question you want, anything that's related to building and scaling a local SEO agency. So if you're going to ask about SEO tactics, don't. If you're going to ask about scaling and building a local SEO agency, then please do. And what we're going to be going through is a couple of key areas: how to win local SEO clients. Tom's going to be talking to us about that. We're going to be talking about how to deliver at scale for multiple local SEO campaigns. If you've got several clients, if you've got 1, 3, 5, 10, Tom's going to talk you through his experiences of how he's managed such an environment. And then, of course, the standard operating procedures, or SOPs, that you need to make sure that every campaign is dealt with efficiently, effectively, and that you're not working every hour that God sends, at least trying to deliver for these campaigns. So, Tom, I'd love for you, for a little while, talk to the audience and tell them a little bit about who's Tom Livingstone, who's Right Click Inspect, and why should they listen to you when it comes to this topic?
So I've got a bit of an unconventional background, really. I spent 10 years in the military before coming out and thinking about what I want to do via online marketing. I knew that I wanted a career to do online and find something. And so I didn't really have like the normal like background of, you know, someone that's maybe doing web design in their bedroom or something like this. I started off working and amending websites for Yale.com.
Okay.
And from there, we got a presentation on what is SEO, and from then on in, the rest is sort of history. It's just been
crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey for the last 8 years or so, I'd say.
Yeah.
I literally got started properly in SEO in April 2012 when Penguin hit, and it was a manic time to be joining the industry.
Yeah.
But moved around between a few different agencies, learning the ropes. And then I wanted to act as an SEO consultant. I contacted a few people in my local area to see if they needed help.
Yeah.
And I found my business partner, Luke, who was very strong with sales, very experienced in the art of selling. And so we teamed up to create a local SEO offering together, and that was at Bright Design. And that's been going for 5 years now. Right Click Inspect is my like SEO consultancy service, where it doesn't really focus on like the local SEO model. And yeah, time has just flown over the last few years as we've built that up and scaled it out. We've got a number of staff, number of different operations going on with the local SEO agency now. We've branched up into like web design and conversion optimization and development as well. So yeah, it's not just about like the local SEO is just sort of one part of the agency, and once we figured out the ability to scale, we were able to broaden our product offering and sort of package it up together as become more of like a complete full service digital agency as such. Okay.
Well, listen, I didn't know about the 10 years in the military. That's amazing to go from doing something that is very physical, I guess, to doing something that's completely, I guess, in the background, so to speak. A lot of people have that idea about SEO. So I guess, and guys, please do 33 big money. Here you are. Hello. Keep your questions coming in the comments. I will get to almost probably all the questions that you definitely are asking. And I guess what I'd love to begin with, Tom, is asking about, you know, one of the big things that companies consider is specialization. How is it that you guys decided from day one to focus upon local SEO, especially given, and this relates to Katie's question, if you just bring that up for us, Kate, Anton, it's a good question because it relates to my first actual question that I've got. So Katie is asking, how do you make small clients with small budgets profitable in this space? And a lot of people have the conception, whether it's false or real, that a local SEO client might be, a builder, or it might be a local hairdresser. So I'd love to first ask, how did you decide to specialize on local? And then, like, how did you make sure that the numbers made sense for you guys as a business?
So we decided to specialize in local because it was partly what my background was. I was specializing in local SEO around Bedford and London before I moved back up to Northampton.
Yeah.
So that was a particularly strong area. We'd been doing a lot of testing with Google My Business, well, Google Places back then it was as well.
Yeah.
So we had a pretty tight strategy when it came to delivering local SEO to smaller budgets as well.
Yeah.
In reality, we make a loss at the beginning because so much work and time gets invested into that local SEO client.
Yeah.
But you can then sort of like not set and forget, but you can set and leave it to run, and make sure that, you know, that if the process is being followed, then the results will come.
Okay.
You know, it's not sometimes a lot of our work isn't necessarily based on the budget. It's based on the work that we're able to put in and the time we spend.
Okay.
And you can make things go a long way when you are delivering at scale. So if we've got a number of tasks that are happening over 100 clients, we're able to make it profitable because we're able to get so much done based on all of those budgets put together.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So is it fair to say then that this is a process that works really effectively when delivered at scale in terms of the profitability?
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly when we're using like consultants to carry out the process, or virtual assistants, as they get better, they get to understand the process, it becomes quicker.
Yeah.
And we're able to reduce the amount of time it takes to deliver each month.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And to be honest with you, we'll bring up Paul's comment because it's quite a good comment, because Paul has again corrected something that I've said. Paul Lovell says, I used to have double glazing and plumbers. They're local clients, but big profits. So in many cases, and I'm assuming you have got some clients that, you know, are on the larger side as well as some that, you know, are on the smaller side. So I guess one of the things that is important in understanding then, and it's also just to go based upon Marketing Calamar, he's got a question just for you specifically, what does local mean? Just so we're clear, is it local, your area? Could it be local but anywhere in the UK that's just they're focused upon local listings? What does it mean, just so the audience are clear?
I would, to make it clear, I would say any keyword search with the location in is local SEO.
Perfect. And was that something that you guys focused on? So is it, and it could be anywhere, but as long as they were focusing upon a local listing.
Yeah, we could do local SEO for a guy in Miami if we wanted to.
Yeah. Brilliant. Understood. Okay, that's good to know. And then you talked a little bit about some of these processes. Do you want to walk us through an example of what a process would be for a local SEO client that you kind of follow?
Yeah, so we do very much to begin with, once we've won that client, there'd be an audit, and we'd need to see, right, where are the quick wins, what have we identified this site lacks. A lot of the time it's stuff like unclaimed Google My Business listings, no area pages on a website, maybe it doesn't have a blog module, for example, to target additional keywords. Maybe they're not doing anything socially. Maybe you just can't find them in that area. You know, the site could be lacking in content. It's all the normal stuff with regards to an SEO audit, but just more looking at the local side of things and, you know, where are they coming up with proximity searches and things like that. There's a lot of manual work that goes in at the beginning.
Okay. That makes sense. And then to answer I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? It sounds a lot like the fundamentals to a large degree don't change, whether it's local or anywhere, but it's just that 20% of it that focuses upon a particular kind of listing. What do
Yeah,
you?
I mean, I was just obviously the local algorithm's different, and you can get away with certain things that you can't do when you're trying to rank on national scale. I say that lightly because there's been changes over the last 2 or 3 weeks where some of our local strategies are not working as well as they used to, and it might fall in line with the algorithm update of the last 24 hours. So
okay. All right, we'll come back to that in a while. What I'm interested about, and Pierre's actually asked quite a good question. So Pierre Henri Labrosse, I hope I got that right, my friend Pierre. He says, what are with the local SEO clients, what kind of KPIs do you base it upon? Is it we will get you to, I mean, how do you deal when thinking about KPIs for your local SEO clients?
So our KPIs for local SEO clients are no different from national SEO. Just so everyone knows, like our client base, we have about 300 local clients now, and about 80 national clients. So we're not like a full local SEO agency, but the KPIs will remain the same. It's rankings, traffic, conversions, and return on investment. And that's very much how we sell the product, should we say? When we're contacting people
Okay, no, brilliant. Dude, it's a pretty impressive number. So 300 local clients. How does client relationship management work with?
That's the most important thing.
Yeah,
that is, our business is built upon communication. This is why very much we have like quite a large team in the UK, and an even bigger team offshore. Because what's very important to us is communication with the client at least twice a month, a phone call at the end of every month. It gives us an opportunity to make sure that people are happy, that things are progressing well. And then if there's any problems as well, with such a large client base, it'd be easy to miss one or two. And those are things that we've learned from failures in the past, in previous roles and experiences. Where, like, certainly some of the agencies I'd worked in, we were not able to deliver properly because the setup had been wrong within the team and things like that.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And then, so talking about the kind of phone calls and the processes, do you want to speak a little bit about some of those elements in Deepak? When we have a local SEO campaign, we've got this part, we've got a week for an audit, X weeks we execute link building, and this is what we do in terms of client relationship management. Is there a process that you guys follow with your local guys?
Yeah, so within the first 5 days of each month, everyone gets a report that we've automated that, so that gets sent out. And then we have a consultant call maybe 24 to 48 hours afterwards to discuss the report, find out things that are going on in their business, any opportunities like that they might have had, like some new sponsorship or something like that, where we could go and get an unlinked mention potentially. And then pretty much straight away the next day, we're looking at what content is needed. We have a 6-month content calendar created at the beginning of the strategy. So we can go and we'd spend a few minutes to check that the blog content, there isn't anything better that might be more timely that we can maybe create an article for. That goes out to our content team, and then link opportunities are identified, which then goes out to our link acquisition team. And from there, we then move on to the next one, and we have like a very much a project management system for all of our clients as they progress through each month.
Okay. Right, it sounds pretty robust, and it sounds like is there, you know what, I have some questions, but the audience has many more questions, so I'm going to pivot a little bit into seeing what these guys questions that they have. So I want to go to 33 Big Money. Let's bring your one up, because that's a pretty good one. So 33 Big Money asks, how do local self-employed or small business owners, trust in perhaps you, or trust in SEO when they might not necessarily believe that SEO has its value? Or could you talk through that process a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, dealing with company owners directly is a lot.
Tom sighs. He's like, well,
no. I sort of prepared for this actually. Dealing with company owners directly is a lot different to dealing with marketing managers and marketing budgets. They are emotionally invested. They need things to happen straight away. And so you've got to be able to demonstrate that you can do what you say you can do.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that we did was make sure that we ranked #1 for SEO in our local area.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the first sales that we say is, if we can do it for ourselves and we can do it for you. And it's certainly a good sell as well, because we rank really well in areas that we're not necessarily based out of. So, other regions and towns, not too far, but certainly we're not in that area and we don't have a right to rank in that area. So we can say that, you want to target these additional areas. If you want to expand your business, then, we can get you found in these areas. Look, we're not in this area and we're up there. So it's that builds trust straight away, builds confidence straight away. A lot, we get probably about 5 to 7% of our leads inbound organically from that. So,
brilliant.
Without the need to do.
You said 5 to 7. So what's the other 95?
Outbound sales, cold calling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, brilliant. It sounds like it's a really interesting approach, and I want to talk more about the inbound versus the outbound strategy as we move forward. So what Pierre is asking, Pierre, I think he's answered your question, in fact, because Pierre was asking if your market is really competitive, how do you stand out to your competitors? So it sounds like showing them the example of, look, we rank locally very well, therefore, we know what we're doing. Do you want to talk through some other strategies that have been really effective in demonstrating how you're different to any other agency out there that you found that's been effective with winning clients?
Do you mean from an inbound point of view?
We could probably talk about the nuances. We could talk about how it changes from inbound to outbound. So let's first of all talk about when you're selling outbound. How is it that what is your answer to, well, Tom, your agency sounds quite similar to 7 phone calls that I've got this week. Are there particular things that your sales force use effectively in these local campaigns for the outbound side?
Well, we would potentially, most of the time when we're contacting people outbound, we're contacting them for a reason. We're not just phoning up and saying, oh, we're so and so from this area. Would you like to work with us? We're contacting them with a particular problem. Now, most part, people are not ranking in GMB properly. They might have a listing in there and they haven't claimed it. And so, as soon as we say, like, you're risking your competitor stealing this listing, hijacking it, and show them, we can show you examples of where it's happened before to other people. Now, you don't want to fall into that trap. And they sort of, even if they don't want to, even if they're not interested, they don't want their competitors like taking their share of what they should be getting. And so it's an easy way in, like when you get them emotionally, because they're so emotionally invested into their business anyway.
Okay. No, it makes perfect sense. Thinking about that space, do you let's briefly talk about in the local SEO space a little bit about how you guys determine contracts and how do you want to tell us a little bit about how contracts work in the local SEO space?
So 12-month contracts. We very much say that a lot of the time and effort goes in at the start of the campaign. It helps when we're able to say that we've got clients, we're ranking other people in other areas that they're not competing in. So that can demonstrate, how we work and things like that. But the contract's very much to protect us as well, because of that time investment at the start. We know that we will make a loss for the first 3 months on that client. So we have to protect ourselves, in order to make sure that we've got a business.
Of course, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. Guys, if you're just joining, please do let us know where you're from. I see Meda has just joined. Meda, let us know what city you're from as well as country. I see that you're from India. Let us know what you do for, of course, a living. And we're talking today about local SEO and how to scale a local SEO agency. Tom is moving into full service, but he's got 300 local SEO clients. So he's obviously, more than obviously, an amazing person to ask questions about when it comes to building an agency that's centered around getting a lot of clients who want to rank for local listings. If you've got questions about that, please do keep them coming through. And we're going to take the question from Oliver Bannister now, because it leads on from the question, the answer that you just given. So Oliver's asking, how do you actually enforce a 12-month contract? Like, could you talk us through that?
It's you have to be able to sell the benefits. You have to make them realize that we're not just we're not just providing a service that you just buy. We're very much invested into their business. We are a partner in their business. Okay. And when you're able to build that rapport, getting the signature on the dotted line is much easier. We will go out and meet the client like before anything. We usually have 2 to 3 meetings. If we were cold calling someone, for example, one thing that we do is look at if they're advertising in Yale, we'll contact them and say, how does that advertising work for you? Like, what sort of budgets are you spending? Yeah. And then once we talk about us and we talk about like how much more invested we are and things like that, then especially when we're face to face with them, we don't even say at the end of our close when we're selling, we don't say, would you like to progress? And you say, right, okay, these are the next steps. I need you to sign on here. You can fully read this agreement at any point, and you do have 7 days to opt back out if you don't feel comfortable with it. Yeah. And usually we don't get any cancellations from then. So it seems to work. It seems to work okay.
Well, it says, with that process in mind, do you still go out when it's someone who's based 50 miles away from you or 100 miles away from you?
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't go out if it was 500 miles away, I don't think, but yeah, we do. We've got clients all over the UK that we maybe visit.
I think, guys, this is for me, amazing advice, I think, because what Tom is describing is a very, very personalized approach. It's done at scale. They do go out to clients, within a 100-mile radius. He's quite confidently said, unless it's 500 miles, we do. And I think that, these are things that more and more companies are probably, especially in the digital space, are probably a bit wary of doing. And I think it certainly would differentiate you in the local space, because I can't imagine there'll be many competitors in Tom's niche who will actually go in and actually meet, and having an operational infrastructure behind them. It's probably more likely to be a local freelancer who's a different kind of.
It's a really good point you made there, because a lot of the local SEO agencies, guys that are pitching to these people that are hearing this every day on their website, they don't have, like, might have an about page, but they don't have pictures of people working there. Like you say, it's probably someone from their bedroom. But then if you look on the flip side of local SEO agencies that are saying we are a local SEO agency, and then they have this big team, that's where the gap in the market is for us, because they're not that apparent. And a lot of agencies that you'll find are probably boutique, operating in certain niches and things like that. And so it's not a competitive area or space as some may think, especially if you can, especially if you give the perception that you are, you're a fully committed team in the UK and things like that.
Well, I think that, guys, if you're listening, when you think about local SEO, it's one of those spaces that doesn't get enough press, and Tom has built an incredibly successful business around it. And I think that thinking about local clients and the ones that you go to meet, Pratik has asked a really good question. Pratik Jain, he's asked, is it a good idea to focus upon a specific industry within the local? Do you do, as long as it's local, it doesn't matter? I presume you do, as long as it's local, it doesn't matter. But what are your thoughts on Pratik's?
We do. We sort of do. Like there's more profitable industries locally, like your window fitters and things like that, than there is maybe for your handyman and your plumbers and stuff. So it's obviously it makes sense to maybe go after those more profitable local industries. But I certainly wouldn't be going boutique, like looking at certain niches as a local agency. I don't think so. I mean, because
is there a reason why?
The strategy doesn't change too much. So if you can apply your strategy to multiple niches without having to amend it, then why not just go offering everybody?
Yeah.
Now I can understand, the difference in maybe going boutique as a national agency, but it works differently for local, because at the end of the day, it's just an algorithm. So
okay. So it sounds like from an operational perspective, not much changes. So therefore, it makes sense to go after cross niches. Basically, don't divide it by niche.
Yeah, the best thing about link building the best thing about going after certain niches is just the link building, isn't it? Really, the relationships that you have, the pre-existing relationships. But on a local level, you can find those local niche relevant sites to link to pretty easily. So.
Okay. No, it makes perfect sense. And talking about linking to local sites, Chirag is asking a good question. So Chirag, by the way, do let us know where you're from, my friend. So I think it's also a question that, if you're still here with us, by the way, I think Katie Thomas, please do say hello. So Katie and Chirag, I'm going to kind of combine your questions. So talking of budgets and profitability and those two areas, does your budget change based upon niche? Or how do you make determinations depending upon, the state of their website, the state of their backlink, all of the usual stuff? Like, how does that kind of work for you?
So our business development team, like the sales guys, they will speak to our consultants and say, what sort of budget do you think we need when, to potentially rank this site? And the only thing we look at really, you can get a quick understanding of if the site is ready to rank, like what sort of CMS it's on quickly. But ultimately, it's about how many links do you need? How many links do you need to rank for that keyword? And thinking about like the amount of effort that goes into building those links depends on like what sort of budget we're looking for from them. We also take into account like how much money how much can they afford, and how much of an impact can our services have on this business? Because if we're going to be making a loss for the first 3 months, but then it gets very profitable. Now, even if those profit margins are small, if we do a really good job, you can imagine the referrals are going to come in from that client. That client will be a flag bearer of our business. And that again allows us to grow. And so, you've got to look at you've got to sort of think about the wider
benefits. It sounds like there's a lot of knock-on benefits. I mean, thinking about that referral piece, it must be, and local businesses probably tend to have pretty good networks, I'd imagine, as well, when it comes to knowing either industry-based or just local-based customers and being able to actively refer you. Has that become a big part of your actual success as you've grown?
Absolutely. Some of our biggest clients are all referrals. So, and especially like the local plumber down the pub is speaking to his marketing manager, mate. The ins that we've had from that has been, dare I say the word, unprecedented.
Okay, that's a good word. So guys, it's a good. So Chris, dude, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Anyone else who hasn't yet subscribed, then please do subscribe. And talking about subscriptions, we've got. Let's see if you can find this, Anton. We've got Baiju, Baiju. So he's asking, like, what kind of deliverables do you put into the contract, or how does that work? What, like at a local level, how does that play out?
Well, I mean, we say like that we are going to very much we'll maintain the site from an audit perspective. We use SEM, which is site auditing tool actually. And we show them like where we're at before we started. We'll make sure that where they're at after we start, and all the optimizations that we've done, and the score that we've got from that. We say like, we promise to get you above 80%, but we don't say we'll get you into first. That would be ridiculous. You can't promise that. But you can say like, well, this will we'll improve you. We'll be able to get you into the top 2 pages for this. But ultimately, like, as long as we are making them money, if they are getting a return, then it'll work. And I mean, it's not, you know, a hard hands up. It doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
Certainly we have to manage those expectations. But in terms of deliverables, we just say we just do what we say we're going to do. You know, we like to under promise and over deliver, really. So
it sounds like it's been incredibly effective, and by offering, as you said, some of those key deliverables where you say, look, what we can do is get you within the top 2 pages, and it sounds like you're very ROI focused as well when it comes to determining, you know, what the outcome is going to be for the business owner or the marketing manager. And I can imagine at a local level that speaks volumes to companies that are very mindful of their budgets and very mindful of what the bang for their buck is, so to speak. How often at a local level, like of those 300 clients, what percentage are marketing managers that you deal with versus founders that you deal with?
5% probably. 5% of our local SEO clients have marketing managers.
Okay.
Maybe more. Maybe 7-8%. I'd say.
Okay.
But again, they're as much as they're marketing managers, they're maybe just like the owner's son or something like that. You know, we deal with a lot of that as well.
No, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I was curious about that because we spoke about the marketing managers before, and I thought, hang on, at a local level, you know, what, how does it work? So I wanted to go back into the inbound versus the outbound strategies. So there's a couple of things, guys, just as a reminder that Tom has mentioned that have been pretty powerful. So the first thing that he mentioned is that they specifically target companies that have under-optimized GMB profiles that are not appearing for local-based search. And you also look at companies that are currently advertising in Yale, and then you approach them to find out how is that going for them, what kind of return are they seeing. Are there could you elaborate on some of those strategies actually to tell us more about how they work in practice and how the outreach process works? Because I think that, you know, there's some people in this audience, you know, that might have client rosters of less than 10 or less than 50. So the idea of getting 300 sounds quite daunting, as you can imagine.
Well, I mean, it's nothing that nobody won't know. You know, we're using keywords and Googling by location, checking the second and third page and seeing why they might not be ranking there, and then contacting them. You know, we'll be using search operators and checking the copyright dates on websites as well, locally. So we say, you know, why haven't you updated your website? You know, it says that it's not been updated since 2017. Right? You know, and then we can sort of elaborate on that. Other times we'll be just going to like business events and speaking to businesses within those. And the good old fashioned getting in your car and driving around and checking what businesses are in your area and contacting them.
Okay. So you guys still do some walk-ins sometimes? Just like, oh, hey guy. Okay. Amazing.
I know, unconventional, but
it's, you know what, it sounds incredibly effective. And I think that the irony is that some of this stuff has become a bit of a lost art, that people are like, oh, so you just walk in, you're like, we do.
100%. Like our you know, part of the success that we've had is because of the cold calling. Like, you know, we're warming it up as much as possible. You know, if we've identified businesses that are active on LinkedIn, then we're making sure that we are viewing those profiles prior to contacting them. So that, you know, the seed drops when they're like, oh, I recognize that name. Where have I heard that before?
Okay.
Yeah, we were connected on LinkedIn potentially, or something like that.
No, agreed. It sounds fabulous. And I think that, you know, I'm learning, I'm being reminded as well as learning of, you know, Deepak, there's some core strategies. Cold calling works when you cold call with intent, and when you really think about presenting them with the current problem they have, as opposed to just randomly calling Mr. Joe Blogs and saying, hey, we do SEO, and they're like, okay, great. So we've got some more questions coming in. We've got Pierre, I think, has asked this question now for the third time. So Pierre, I apologize. Question, Pierre, you said you're from France. We guess that. Which city in France are you from? We'd love to know. And he is asking, I think fundamentally, like, how do you talk about or describe outcomes for a business owner who doesn't really appreciate the value of SEO, or either the processes involved? What could you talk through some of that for us?
It can be a struggle sometimes to make business owners realize like the importance and value of what you're doing. And we won't enter into a contract with someone if we don't feel that it's mutually beneficial to both of us.
Okay.
It's a dangerous area actually when you take on a client that doesn't understand what you're doing, and it compounds it even more when because they're emotionally invested into their business. They'll spend more time on at you about how things are going and what's going on, rather than, which takes away the time for you. We'll be losing even more time at the start, let alone the loss that we make anyway. And we're losing even more time by trying to appease the situation, when they don't realize what's going on after 3 weeks. You're getting complaints, and that's where the sales process has to be really tight. We don't just take on anybody. We want to make sure that it's a relationship, and that people understand exactly what they're letting themselves in for. They have plenty of opportunity to get out any concerns, and for us to be able to speak with them about those. But you'd be surprised at how successful those discussions are with someone that's worried when you're face to face in a meeting.
Okay.
That's the key. We've won some of the biggest contracts that we've got by going out and seeing people.
Okay.
So that's able to build that rapport straight away and stop those worries from happening.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And, I'm here sitting a bit starry-eyed because I thought, meeting people, that sounds weird. And you're like, it's completely like the the most normal thing to do. So just go out and meet people. Yeah. How many, out of interest, talking with other agency owners, how many agency owners are surprised when they say, so you go out and meet everybody for the first time and sit down? Is it quite common? Is it within your circle, is that quite typical?
No, it's not common.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes us stand out. We've obviously contacted every other agency within 100 miles of us, pretending to be a client to figure out what their process is, competitor analysis and all that. And you'd be surprised.
We should build upon that, guys. So Tom's just talked about a really probably perhaps obvious, but it might not be obvious thing, that when doing your competitor analysis, Tom just mentioned that within a 100-mile radius, they made an effort to reach out to every other client, or every other agency rather, to understand more about their sales process and onboarding, and probably as much as you can. How important is that for an agency who's just getting started in this game?
Oh, 100%, because you've got to do something that's better than someone else. So, what better way to do that than to know what the other people are doing? We do it for our clients as well. Like, certainly, as we progress through a campaign, and a guy's, this local client is now expanding, he's taking on more clients, and he's like, what other things could I be doing? Because we are, as much as an SEO agency, we are business consultants as well, in a way. These local guys, they pin everything on us. They want us to work with them to grow their business, which is what we're doing. But, some of the conversations that our consultants have will be much more geared towards how they can grow their business. What sort of additional services might they be able to offer within their skill set, and what things could we rank for? And then we say, like, right, let's contact these guys and see, what their process is like, and how you can maybe mirror that and do it better.
Well, it's a really good point that you just developed, because you're talking about value adds, you're talking about upsells, and it relates to Baiju's question. Baiju and Passion for Dance, you've got a really, really good question. Ultimately, Baiju is asking, if you bring that one up, Anton, Baiju and Jani, or Baiju Jani, he's asking, he wants to know about retention ultimately, like how many clients tend to renew, and ultimately, I guess, what you do with the problem of perhaps SEO fatigue, or when clients stop seeing the same level of activity in terms of the dialogue with them. How do you, like, what is your retention rate, if you're happy to share, and how do you like keep clients in it for the long haul?
Ultimately, like if a client decides to leave, then fine. Our retention rate is really good. I'd say it's probably up in around the 90% somewhere.
Amazing.
We very rarely will lose a client during the contract. Now, some clients might wish to go elsewhere. Maybe they've just, or I'd say, right, we're coming to the end of the contract. Thank you for all your efforts. That can be a bit of pill to swallow sometimes, especially when you've done everything you said you're going to do. You're looking to a long-lasting relationship. But a lot of the time we will say, if you ever need any more help, if your rankings do drop, then you know where we are, come back to us, type of thing. But other than that, retention rates are really high because you're doing what you say you're going to do. We're talking to them each month. We are almost an employee of their business. That's what the communication is, the reason why that client retention rate is so high.
Okay. So let's drill down into this communication piece, because I think that's like it's pretty, like a 90% retention rate in SEO is very, very impressive. So when you're talking, exactly, so Anton's given it a thumb, like he's like, whoa, that's huge. He's like, everyone wants a 90% retention rate in the service industry. It's pretty impressive. How, like, talk about the keys to communication success when it comes to, like, expand upon it a bit more. I think that, there's probably a lot of knowledge. It perhaps is obvious to you.
I mean, we'll know if a client might approach us to, if they're thinking about cancelling or something. All of a sudden, they're not available for that phone call that you have every month. Or maybe they're a bit quieter on the phone. So we send a business development manager out to speak to them. Maybe the SEO consultant will come along at the same time. We can work through and iron out any problems that there might be. And getting people face to face works wonders with regards to building a relationship back up if it has deemed to full. And sort of like,
it sounds like you guys go the extra mile, to be honest with you.
I mean, we do. It makes us feel better about it as well, actually. And a lot of the time as well, whilst we're being available, you'll be surprised. Like whilst we do call every client, some of them will just be like, oh, I can't talk right now, I'm too busy, which is great. But so a lot of the time we don't spend on the phone anyway, even though that we are very hot on our communication side of things. But we actually care. I know it might sound a bit corny or whatever, but we do. We take a very keen and active interest in the business. We're constantly asking them questions about what do they want to sell more of. How are we going to increase their revenue? What does further success look like for your business? Have you got a better idea of where you want to be in 24 months? And let's build back from there. Let's think about how we're going to get there, and what they need to do.
I mean, it sounds like you've got a really well established, like, client relationship management and outreach process. Now, is it the same outreach? Is it the same sales guys that are also doing the client relationship management with these questions, or does that get kind of passed along the food chain? Before we come to that, actually, 33 Big Money was asking about your team. And I know that you said it at the beginning, but in terms of your team structure, how many are, like, in office in Northampton, and how many are remote?
So we started, obviously, just the two of us, and we've built up the agency. We now offer web design and web development as well. We have 3 paid search executives too, and we've got 12 full-time SEO consultants. Offshore team is about 18 people now. And they very much deal with the SOP side of things.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's what the
Sounds like
reach is.
so 15 in the office. Was that 15 I counted?
12 in the office. So we've actually got 25 staff in the office now, but 12 in the SEO team.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So 33 big money. I don't know if you're still with us, in fact, but that answers that question. Well, it leads on to the question I was going to ask, was the sales and the client relationship management process. Like, is that something that are two separate
No,
units?
they're together. We all work together in the same room.
Okay.
With the clients, we usually have built up a rapport and a trust with that business development manager.
Yeah.
So certain aspects of the campaign, the contract, and things will go through them, but they are very much given a welcome in to the SEO team.
Yeah.
Once they are handed over, we give the client a call within 24 hours to introduce ourselves. We
Yeah.
have a really nice welcome pack that goes out that has screenshots and of us lot, and so they can put a name to a face.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, if they're only down the road or whatever, we'll say, like, we'll come out and have a chat with you, and we'll just go for a coffee for an hour or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds brilliant. It sounds like a really, really smooth smooth and well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian, SOP. Where are you from, Brian, by the way? So in the UK, it's standard operating procedure, although it might mean other things elsewhere. So do tell us if you are thinking of something else. I'd be curious to know. So with the agency where it is right now, you've got 25 in the team total, and you've got 12 of that who are SEO. How could you talk briefly, because we're coming up to the last. By the way, we're coming up to the last 9 minutes, everybody. So if you've got any other questions you'd like to ask Tom, I've got about 10 that I want to ask him, but please do keep them coming. Okay. Please do keep them coming in the comments. So I want to ask about the transition. So your non-SEO team now is bigger, I think, than your actual SEO team, right? So focused, of course, a lot on the local SEO. Like, can you talk us through the expansion of your business a little bit more, and when it started becoming about more services effectively?
Yeah. So when we started, I was doing everything, and we outsourced the SEO to an SEO provider that was offshore. And unfortunately, we were using some offshore teams from experiences. What they say they'll do and what gets done is a completely different thing.
Yeah.
And so we had to bring it back in-house. And it was certainly over the last 3 years or so that we went out to Chiang Mai, and from there we realized that building standard operating procedures was the way to go.
Okay.
So every single element of every single result of
you mentioned Chiang Mai. What happened in Chiang Mai? Because we went out to Chiang Mai and we realized, just for the audience who are wondering what happened.
So there was a really popular SEO conference out in Chiang Mai, where we were able to do some networking, find out how other people are running their businesses and things like that. And a lot of people, one of the big buzzwords from that trip was standard operating procedures. Now, or processes and things like that. And what's allowed us to scale is certainly these standard operating procedures have been what's enabled us to scale, because we have a video and then a word guide, and on every single item within our audit process that's been identified. Also, we have a link acquisition team now that work based solely on a project management system and those SOPs too. And we have a project manager overseeing the whole thing. And that, having those systems and processes in place has meant that we've been able to save a lot of money, save a lot of time, and make sure that the right things, the things that we need to do, are being done. And that allows, for the success of the campaign. And, when the virtual assistants are following the SOPs, it means that they become quicker, like I'd mentioned before, so you're able to deliver quickly and at scale. So
no, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like SOPs, guys, is a huge buzzword, and talking about talking about, I think that WatchTech, you've asked the same question a couple of times, and I want to make sure the question gets covered. So WatchTech asks about, it's a good question. So it's insurance, right? So he asks, do you have insurance to cover your SEO work? You've got these 12-month contracts, you've got local clients who probably do have to think about key man insurance and professional and personal liability. How does it work with you guys, if at all? Are there any kind of insurance or protection policies in place?
We do have business liability insurance, but I wouldn't say we ever really worry about that, or it comes up. Sometimes businesses just can't afford to pay. Maybe it's not worked for them or whatever, and if we feel that things haven't gone the way that we'd hoped, just trying to think back. I mean, if we feel like that, then we will hold our hands up. But more often than not, things, maybe you might have a sticky patch at the beginning where it's hard to get any traction. But ultimately you find a way. One thing I will say is that certainly for the first few months, we might run some advertisements, some paid search advertisements on them whilst we fix their site, because it's horrendous. The client won't know that it's got a site on whatever platform and you can't do anything, or whatever, or his site might be 10 years old and we're like, Christ, we're gonna have to rebuild this thing. It's like we wouldn't then go back to the client and say, well, you need a new website as well, so that's going to be X amount more. We'll just go and do it and just take the loss.
Okay. All right. It sounds like you guys really do care about the success of your clients. It's evident. I don't think that there's hardly a company I know that will just do it in the background, rebuild the website without talking to client about challenges and about billing. And the retention rate now is just making more and more sense, because I'm thinking that you really do go above and beyond. And guys, smash that like button or the dislike button, as Anton is saying in the comments. If you're bored, or even if you're excited and you think that Tom is offering some amazing insights, please do share with us a like or a dislike. So we're coming into the last 3 minutes. I'm going to storm through some questions. So 30, thank you, Margin. 33 Big Money's asked. Look, he's asking, knowing what you know now, what are your biggest mistakes and kind of learnings that you think you might do differently at the beginning? Like, what's your parting advice to the audience?
Don't do everything yourself. I was trying to do way too much myself right at the beginning, like not sleeping at all, seven days a week. Just, it felt like I was working all the time. Because you need to get results quickly, so it sort of puts a bit of pressure on yourself. So having the ability to have people I could rely on to follow certain procedures took a lot of the stress away, and allowed us to work on the business rather than in the business, which is a very key point to scaling. Okay. So guys, work on your business instead of in your business. Develop really well-defined standard operating procedures. Tom mentioned he's got a Word document, as well as, of course, the actual video for it. And we will take this question. Anton has prompted me. Nisha is asking, has COVID affected your business? Have you seen a lot of cancellations? Yeah, unfortunately we have. We've had to furlough a number of staff. There's a lot of businesses in the same boat. I'd say we've probably had 30% have paused, which could potentially mean cancelled too. And certainly on the local scale, like the local businesses make up our business, and those are the ones that have been impacted the most. A lot of people, are not needing some of the things that, certainly like local stores and things that have had to shut up shop. But again, like what goes with our business, one of the things that we're founded upon is good communication. So we're able to, we've spoken to them, we've come to an arrangement. It's not their fault it's happened. Like, we can work it out, and we will come out the other side of this. So,
guys, I think that's amazing. I think that there's many of us that are in that same boat, where of course, you know, there's companies like British Airways that are making 12,000 redundancies. So equally, there's, you know, companies that at a local level that are suffering even more. And Margin, it was a good question about local SEO tricks. Just Google local SEO plus SEMrush, and I'm sure you'll find tons and tons of good information from SEMrush themselves. Guys, thank you so much for, you know, being part of this webinar. Please do, as we said, you know, comment, like, subscribe. Do go check out Tom Livingstone. I'm sure you can Google him. I'm sure if you want to go ahead and find him on LinkedIn, Tom Livingstone, you'll find him. Right click inspect is the name of his actual business. So go ahead and check that out, and, you know, feel free to get in contact with him at any stage. And Tom, Mr. Livingstone, thank you very much for your time, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Catch you next time for another show about how to start and scale an SEO agency. Thank you, everybody.
Cheers.